We intentionally waited an extra day before releasing this week's report, just to see if anything would finally happen with the Colorado River negotiations. Today is November 10th, and with the deadline tomorrow, November 11th, there's still no deal, no framework, no new agreement. After 2 years of tension, the 7 western states are still deadlocked over how to share a river that 40 million people depend on. Negotiations remain stuck between the upper basin states, Colorado, Utah, Wyoming, and New Mexico, and the lower basin states, California, Arizona, and Nevada. The Bureau of Reclamation has made it clear that if the states can't agree soon, the federal government will impose a plan of its own before the current rules expire at the end of 2026. At the center of the fight is the question of who must cut back, and by how much. Arizona Governor Katie Hobbs blasted the upper basin for taking what she called an extreme negotiating position, refusing to accept mandatory reductions while the lower basin continues to shoulder the heaviest cuts. Utah's negotiator, Gene Shawcroft, took a softer tone, saying the states are making steady progress and hoping to submit a framework by February. But without a confirmed commissioner at the Bureau of Reclamation, and with another dry winter looming, patience is wearing thin. Experts warn the river's supply is as tight as it was during the record lows of 2022. Agriculture still uses about 80% of all Colorado River water, most of it to grow feed for livestock. That's where reform could make the biggest impact. But that's also where consensus is hardest to find. Amid the gridlock, California quietly reached a remarkable milestone. The Colorado River Board of California announced that the state's total river use will drop to 3.76 million acre-feet in 2025, the lowest since 1949. Chairman J.B. Hamby said the achievement proves that conservation and growth can coexist. California's population has quadrupled since the 1940s, yet its water use from the river is now lower than it was when the state had only 10 million residents. That's the result of massive investments in efficiency, recycling, groundwater recovery, and desalination. The Quantification Settlement Agreement of 2003 also played a key role, permanently cutting use by 800,000 acre-feet through agricultural to urban water transfers. Over the past 2 decades, collaboration among California, Arizona, and Nevada has helped raise Lake Mead by nearly 160 feet, showing that cooperation, not confrontation, can move the needle. In Arizona, the town of Queen Creek continues its push to secure a 100-year assured water supply and achieve designated water provider status. The town is preparing to invest in groundwater imported from the Harquahala Basin, the first transfer of its kind ever approved in Arizona. Queen Creek can withdraw up to 5,000 acre-feet per year, potentially reaching 12,000 in total, giving the fast-growing community more control over its own water destiny. This shift would reduce reliance on the Central Arizona Groundwater Replenishment District, saving residents millions in the long run and stabilizing rates. Officials will hold a public meeting this week and a town council vote on November 19th to finalize funding and a new water resource fee to support the program. Governor Katie Hobbs called the move a responsible expansion of Arizona's water options, marking a new chapter in the state's long fight for sustainable growth. Governor Hobbs also praised another major step forward. The Arizona Department of Water Resources has begun the process to designate the Ranegras Plain Basin, one of the state's most overdrawn groundwater areas, as a formal active management area. Groundwater outflows there exceed natural recharge by about 900%. If approved, the new designation would prohibit irrigation of new acres and require most users to monitor and report withdrawals. The public hearing is scheduled for December 18th in Salome, giving residents and businesses a chance to speak for or against the proposal. For many rural Arizonans, this is the protection they've demanded for years. Across the Southwest, data centers are becoming the new water battleground. In southern New Mexico, 2 lawsuits have been filed to stop Project Jupiter, a $165 billion data center complex near Santa Teresa designed to host OpenAI and Oracle. Critics say the project was rushed through approval and relies on a loophole that allows its natural gas microgrid to delay renewable energy compliance until 2045. They're also questioning how the site will tap into the Camino Real Regional Utility Authority, which has faced lawsuits over arsenic contamination in its drinking water system. The facility could use up to 60,000 gallons of water a day, far less than some comparable centers. But opponents argue that even modest consumption could strain an already troubled system. As one Las Cruces resident put it, it's clearly a resource grab, it's clearly an energy grab. Meanwhile, the national debate is growing louder. The nonprofit Food and Water Watch has called for a nationwide moratorium on new large-scale data centers until the full environmental impacts are understood. Their analysis shows that AI-related data centers could consume 720 billion gallons of water and 300 terawatt-hours of electricity annually by 2028, enough to power 28 million homes. As the industry expands, so does the question, how much water and energy are we willing to give up for artificial intelligence? The Western Governors Association has endorsed the revival of Indigenous good fire practices, controlled burns used by native peoples for millennia to maintain healthy ecosystems. These cultural burns are now being reintroduced across California, Montana, and Nevada, reducing wildfire fuel and restoring native habitats. The association's resolution recognizes that traditional ecological knowledge is not just history, it's a guide to resilience. In Idaho, one tribal restoration project is expected to return 13,000 acre-feet of water each year to the Great Salt Lake. Across the West, Indigenous science is reshaping the conversation about land, water, and balance. We close with this week's U.S. Drought Monitor, released November 6th. The Pacific Northwest is drenched, with up to 10 inches of rain in some areas, while much of the Southwest remains parched. Arizona and New Mexico saw little or no rain, and drought conditions deepened in southeastern New Mexico. Utah and Colorado stayed mostly dry, with below-average early snowpack. California shows a sharp divide, wet in the north, dry in the south. And despite the wet start to November up north, it's still too early to declare recovery. The forecast through mid-November calls for more rain in the Pacific Northwest and possibly a return of wet weather to central and southern California. But for the Colorado River Basin, the wait for real relief continues. For details about these stories, or for freshwater news delivered every day except Sunday, visit western-water.com. Thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe for next week's report.